Thank you. Good morning. If we could have everyone kind of make their way back, I've got some really good, exciting news to tell you. So I would love for you to join us, and we will get started. By 2040, Virginia could be the 10th most populous state in the nation. But unfortunately, that may not be the case for Southwest Virginia, where our regions could lose as much as 30% of their population within the next 2 decades. A recent survey also reveals that 1 out of 4 are considering leaving, while 43% of those report they would do so for a better job opportunity. As people have continued to leave our region, so have our youth. Since 2009, more than 6,000 students have not returned to our local schools. Of those remaining, more than 3,000 youth ages 16 to 19 are not enrolled in school or working. While our employers continue to be challenged to fill openings, many report high turnover and the lack of motivated, skilled employees. Last fall, one employer informed me in 1 quarter alone, they hired 295 associates, losing 165 of them just to maintain their normal work group. That cost alone for that company in 1 quarter was nearly $220,000. These are the exact problems that hinder our employers' ability to innovate, to grow, and to start new initiatives. So you may be asking yourself, what do we do about population decline? What do we do about workforce shortages? And what is United Way doing in this space of economic development? Well, first, let me share some information with you about our organization, United Way of Southwest Virginia. For more than 50 years, United Way has been here in this region. Our needs have changed during that time, and our organization has responded to those changes, shifting our focus from treating symptoms to addressing root causes, moving from being recognized as a fundraising organization to an organization focused on community impact, the lives that are changed and the communities that we shape. Today, United Way of Southwest Virginia fights for the health, education, and financial stability of everyone in Southwest Virginia, because these are the building blocks for a good quality of life. In addition to our change in focus, our organization has also taken a regional approach. Our organization has brought the region together through more than 7 different mergers and collaborations to build the United Way of Southwest Virginia. Today, now serving more than 14 counties, 3 cities, over 6,000 square miles, approximately 16% of the Commonwealth. Through these combined regional efforts, United Way of Southwest Virginia is creating scalable and sustainable solutions to new opportunities for our region's most important asset, our youth. But today, we are faced with a new problem. Employers and educational institutions live in different worlds and have entirely different perspectives. When youth are asked if they are prepared for work, the responses are quite different. Educators would think 70% of them would think, yes, youth are prepared for work, while less than half of the business community would agree. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a gap between the worlds of learning and work right here in our region in Southwest Virginia. And what's needed is a true cradle-to-career continuum that bridges a talent pipeline that prepares the next generation for the jobs of tomorrow, supplying our businesses with the skilled workers, building a robust and competitive economy. But in order to do this, there are 2 major challenges that will need to be addressed. First is the lack of awareness of local careers and jobs among our students. Every day, our youth are faced with important decisions that are likely to impact their future, and decisions that include potential career opportunities that could lead to their overall self-sufficiency. Our K-12 systems and schools are designed to help prepare students with this essential knowledge, but yet many are still uninformed about career pathways and options in this community. According to a recent survey by Youth Truth, more than 54% of high school juniors and seniors don't believe that school support services adequately help them match to a career and occupation of their interest. This lack of awareness and direction mostly comes from overwhelmed guidance counselors with too many responsibilities unrelated to career development. But since 2009, we have lost more than 246 school personnel in Southwest Virginia. with 16% of those cuts alone coming from counselor-type positions. That's made now for about a 471 to 1 student-to-counselor ratio, which is twice the recommended amount from the American Counseling Association. Because of these constraints, our youth are uninformed of these potential career opportunities, which makes them more vulnerable to dropping out of school, to underemployment with large sums of educational debt. When it comes to youth furthering the development of their skills with real-world experiences, in Southwest Virginia, we sometimes have lack of opportunities for that to be done. So today's employers not only want to hire people that are competent in hard and soft skills and academic areas, but today's employers also need to hire people that can think critically, communicate, and solve problems collaboratively. But in order to do this, there are 2 major areas that will need to be addressed. First is when it comes to careers and youth knowing their awareness, we must give more opportunity for them to do this. We must do this in order to help them build these pathways and know more. We also must help them to develop their skills and help them understand the importance of learning at an earlier age and the importance of going to work. So United Way this past fall recently announced the scaling up of our Ignite program. Ignite today is working throughout Southwest Virginia and has developed the region's first regional youth workforce development program. Today, Ignite now serves 86 middle and high schools, reaching more than 29,000 students. A program developed by the United Way of Southwest Virginia, Ignite is sparking career interest in the next generation of Southwest Virginia's workforce through career awareness and hands-on learning. This program is helping to bridge the gap between the worlds of learning and work by connecting schools and students with employers and employees. Ignite will build awareness of local careers, pathways in Southwest Virginia among our youth and educators by providing students in age 6th grade through 12th with state-of-the-art software and curriculum to learn more about their own interests and strengths through comprehensive assessments and career matching. Students now create career and academic plans that parents can now view online. Ignite is also enhancing teacher awareness of local employers, workforce needs by leading in teacher-employer tours. Right now, 1/3 of employers report that they don't even communicate with education providers. During these tours, education providers and employers actively step into one another's world. And for the first time, teachers are seeing firsthand the employer's needs to have a workforce that can think critically when confronted with real-world problems. Ignite is also helping our youth to discover opportunities through careers awareness, through our Careers Expo for Youth. Last year, more than 4,000 7th graders participated and learned firsthand from regional employers throughout Southwest Virginia the opportunities that are available to them right here in their backyard. Let's take a moment and look at that experience.
There will probably be around 4,300 students in these 2 days.
Like in the classroom, they can tell you a lot of things, but when you get out and do hands-on activities, it's like a day off, but you're still learning.
It's an amazing opportunity for middle school age students who are just starting to think about what the future might hold for them. You know, the future contractors, the future designers that we're going to have around here. You get a lot of wows when you see things in 3D. You're rotating things, showing how things stack up.
Youth Fair has been very fun. We got to do like a little mini interview.
Oh, today was wonderful. I can't believe how large it is. I love the hands-on.
Some of them are really fired up to come get on the pole, you know. They want to put the belt on and go up and down the pole and climb. That's what they've been really wanting to do.
This really gives them an opportunity that at a young age that they can start planning for what they want to do in the future and realize what's available in our area so they don't have to move outside of, to a larger city and they can stay close to home.
It's always good to see organizations step up and say, this is what we need to do for our youth.
one of the things that I've always been proud of in Southwest Virginia is that we rally behind our kids and want the best for them. And this is the opportunity for all of us to pitch in and do what's best for kids.
In addressing the challenges of giving youth the opportunity to develop skills through hands-on experience, United Way, through Ignite, is deploying strategies to help youth learn skills such as soft skills, communication skills, problem solving, critical thinking, analytical reasoning, skills such as money management. In the areas of soft skills, United Way has developed a partnership with the U.S. Department of Labor, where we're now implementing a school curriculum with counselors and teachers to teach our students in high school and middle school what soft skills are and the importance of those skills in the workplace. In the areas of financial management, we have developed a new partnership with Virginia Tech Cooperative Extension, where now more than 4,000 eighth graders annually receive a financial simulation called Reality Score. Last, and one of the most exciting things that Ignite is working on, which has just been seeded financially through a new partnership with Go Virginia. The United Way of Southwest Virginia is in the process of developing an internship component of Ignite. As research tells us, youth who participate in work-based learning are more likely to do better in school, attend college, or go to work compared to their peers that do not. So we plan to roll out all of these details to you at our regionals leaders breakfast on September the 26th in Abingdon, Virginia. This would be a great opportunity for many of you in this room to get involved and share your insights and experiences with high school students as they are preparing for their future careers. As the Annie E. Casey Foundation would state, in the end, work itself is the strongest program. And each of these strategies that I have covered are really helping to build career awareness, develop hands-on skills, and will help our youth be more prepared for work tomorrow. But our employer needs in Southwest Virginia are continually changing. Our school systems are continuing to ask to do more with less. These challenges only become more difficult in a 21st century economy, and we will need sector and community-wide solutions in order to solve this problem. And please make no mistake, this problem is not for governments, academic institutions, and business to solve alone. It will take all of us working together, united, to do this. But when we do, and I mean that, when we do, we can imagine a Southwest Virginia where our education pipelines are supplying our employer needs with diverse and high caliber talent. We can imagine a Southwest Virginia with the best workforce in America, and one of the best things, a Southwest Virginia where our youth no longer have to leave to find a good job with a higher paying wage. So at United Way, we believe that all youth have a bright future if they have the framework and plan to guide them there. Through a cradle-to-career approach, United Way of Southwest Virginia is creating sustainable and scalable solutions to address the challenges facing our workforce of tomorrow. We are well positioned to backbone these efforts and to bring them to scale. But let's not forget, creating the workforce of tomorrow, again, will take all of us doing our part to make this happen. So today I'm inviting you to be a part of these efforts in economic development through talent development. The return on our investment will help create the pipeline that prepares the next generation for the jobs of tomorrow, supplying all of us in this room with the healthy, well-educated workforce that we need. So please join us and unite Southwest Virginia, and let's fight. Let's continue to fight for a healthy, well-educated, financially stable workforce of tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, hi, I'm Doug Jackson. I'm with the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, and I feel a little bit like a roadie. Like we got this band, and this is our very first arena show. And really, I'm just here to set the stage, because the rock stars are behind me. And I want to introduce a new strategy of Opportunity Southwest Virginia. Now this is, Opportunity Southwest Virginia is how the region's pulling together to increase entrepreneurship. And I want to give you a little bit of what the subtext is today. You're going to hear from the businesses over the course of 3 points during the day. And there's a message behind it. And one is that these businesses are good for our communities. The second, is that we are organizing as a region to support businesses. And the third is that communities are organizing to support businesses. So those are the 3 big messages you're going to hear today. And I want to step back a little bit and give you some background. So in 2012, through the Appalachian Prosperity Project, University of Virginia's College of Wise pulled people together and said, how can we quicken business growth in the region? And they developed a plan. It's the blueprint for entrepreneurial growth and economic prosperity. Now that blueprint did not sit on a shelf. We organized around this blueprint. 25 different organizations came together, started meeting in 2012. They still meet every other month. They're working on dedicated strategies to entrepreneurship, and they're all around you. You're surrounded. So there are a lot of roadies all throughout this room. And I want you to raise your hand if you're part of the Opportunity Southwest Virginia Steering Committee. Raise your hand or stand up or hoot or holler. Woohoo! Okay, yeah. All right, this team is working really hard together. It's some of the most rewarding work that I've had in my time in the Department of Housing and Community Development. So we're working on 3 building blocks of entrepreneurship. One, we're building entrepreneurial ecosystems. And I believe, after going to a national meeting this week, I believe we're doing some of the best work in the country in rural entrepreneurial ecosystems right here in Southwest Virginia. We're growing new ventures, and we're promoting the region as a hub for entrepreneurial activity. And we've done this in a number of ways. We had opportunity summits early on where we showcased all the business support resources, and we showcased businesses, and we connected them. We had a series of business plan competitions, which is a terrific model. We borrowed it from Marion, Virginia, and we did it across 7 counties, and then we did smaller ones at county levels, and they continue today. And the cool thing about this was we put actual money into businesses. But that wasn't the only thing we did. We provided resources and training and helped build a network. And we helped communities see that they can make a difference in how they organize and support businesses. And it's some really exciting stuff. We also had an expansion competition for existing businesses. We put larger dollar amount in through a competition in some specific businesses. So with each of these projects, we're working both at the community side and the entrepreneur side. And on the community side, we have a thing called Rally Southwest Virginia. And we're working with communities. We've worked with 18 communities so far. And the idea is that we can help them develop a small project with only $3,000. It's not a big grant, very small. And I've got a picture here of some of the communities, but I don't have a picture of the projects, and that's intentional. Because while the project and outcome is important, it has to be something that's good for business, it's not really the outcome we're most interested in. We really want to talk about how we make decisions as a community, how we work together, and just dive in there and practice. So we build consensus and we talk about conflict. And a bunch of folks in the room have developed some really cool projects, and we've got a list on the website, and we're still adding communities to that mix. Oh, and by the way, every time we pilot something here in Southwest Virginia, the Department of Housing and Community Development takes it and says, hey, here are other regions in Virginia, here's a model, and it's coming from Southwest Virginia. We have community builders who we're really excited about, and then so community builders who are actually helping. They're recent college graduates, they're working in the communities, they're helping communities tackle some projects and work together as well. And it's the next step. We're always looking for another project and another pilot to push out. This is our logo. I think it's kind of cool because Opportunity Southwest Virginia is about agencies and partners, regional nonprofits, working together in support of communities. Working together in support of communities. We model that. When we do the Rally Project, it's not just one agency there, it's the Tourism Corporation, it's the Department of Housing and Community Development, it's the planning district, it's SWVA Wise, it's a whole team to show the community that they're supported in their efforts. They, in turn, work together and support the businesses in their community. So I think this logo says a lot. When you see it, I kind of hope you see that. So our next step, we have a project, we're working with Kiva. It's an online crowd or community-supported loan system. So I want to show you a little bit about what it is, and then I'll tell you a little bit more, and then we're going to hear from our businesses. And so we've got a video, and I can turn the volume up.
At Kiva.org, we love our nation's 25 million small business owners, artisans, farmers, and entrepreneurs. But oftentimes, you struggle to start or expand your business. A small injection of cash could make things that much easier, but it's hard to come by. That's where Kiva comes in. Kiva is a nonprofit organization that supports U.S. small business owners like you with interest-free capital. That capital doesn't come from an impersonal institution seeking a high rate of return. It comes from our community of 1 million individual people from all around the world and all around your neighborhood. And those people aren't just lenders. They can become customers and brand ambassadors for your business. Because like you, they want your business to succeed. As a U.S. small business owner, you can apply for a first-time Kiva loan up to $10,000 using our simple online application. To start out, we ask that you establish your character and trustworthiness by inviting your friends or family members to fund a small portion of your loan. Once you do that, Kiva's community of lenders will join in and support you. And unlike other crowdfunding platforms, over 90% of Kiva's U.S. borrowers reach their goal.
In addition to the obvious perks like the 0% interest, it was amazing to see lenders from all over the country and the world, contribute to our coffee shop.
Within weeks of receiving a Kiva loan, we were able to put the down payment down on the rental commercial kitchen, and we were able to start producing.
Over the next 1 to 3 years, you pay back your loan in monthly installments with no interest and no fees. If you're a small business owner or an aspiring one, we want to help you succeed. If you could benefit from a Kiva loan for your business, or you know someone who could, please visit us at kiva.org/borrow and join a global community making a positive impact in the neighborhoods of our nation.
So the folks at Kiva have been terrific working with us. They're using this more domestically now in the United States. It started abroad. And it's a kind of an urban model right now. But we're working with them to say, how can we deploy this in a rural environment? And I think we're going to have some fun with it. Already we've got 216 loans that have been made to the 5 businesses you're about to hear from. Collectively, we're looking for $43,000. And when I tell you, they're not up here because they're really hungry for some money to go to the business. Well, maybe it's going to support their business, but they're up here because it's good for the community and good for the region. And every single one of them said that to me in one way or another. And I did a little video series or videos on Kiva of each of the businesses. And I think we're really going to help spread the word about Southwest Virginia through strategies like this. And with that, let me go ahead and let the businesses introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Eva. My husband Michael and I own Adventure Mendota, and we're located in Mendota, Virginia, on the North Fork of the Holston River. We're a kayaking company. We're located 17 miles from a grocery store, 11 miles from a gas station, and we have no cell phone service. Many people wonder, would anyone come out to Adventure Mendota? I'd like to give an update. Over 7,000 kayaks have went down the North Fork in the 3 seasons that we've been in business. So we're working hard. Let me tell you a little bit about how we started, because I think it's relevant to what we're doing here today. I was in a conversation with Todd Christensen at the Friends of Southwest Virginia. He was there at that time, and I was expressing my concern and fears over my community becoming a lost community. When I was raised in Mendota, Virginia, we were powered by Burley Tobacco. It was everywhere. It was our source of income. There were 5 stores within walking distance of my house. There was an active, elementary school that had been a high school. There was a train. There was churches filled with people. And today, there is not even a soda machine in Mendota, Virginia. At that time, there was not a soda machine in Mendota, Virginia. So instead of Todd commiserating with me and telling me how sorry he was, I was in such a lost community, he said, Eva, what are you doing about it? What are your assets? And I thought for a minute, and I told him, I said, well, I tell people I'm the daughter of Clinch Mountain, so obviously Clinch Mountain is my asset. My husband and I have 500 feet of riverfront property, and the people of Southwest Virginia. And he said, isn't that enough? And with that question in mind, a week later, Mike and I were walking across the front yard, and we noticed a lot of kayaks going down the river. And we looked at each other at the same time and said, maybe we ought to open up a kayaking business. And we did. We jumped in and we learned everything about small businesses. And I'll talk about that later this afternoon when I talk about the resources that folks like you provided us when we started. So the next question was, what did I want from Adventure Mendota? And the number one thing that started this was to be a catalyst of revitalization for my community. I wanted it to be a place where people wanted to leave and where young people did not leave. Wanted to live and young people did not leave. And update to that, Adventure Mendota got the attention of Mr. Frank Kilgore. He's the general counsel and project manager, well, for Mountain Heritage, and he acquired, or that nonprofit acquired a 12.2-mile biking trail from Bristol to Mendota that's under development now. I think all those kayaks going down the river, it was an underscore. People will come for an outdoor recreational experience that is worthwhile. So we're making headway in revitalizing Mendota. That trail will mean a whole lot along with Adventure Mendota. I also wanted to provide jobs for local high school and college kids. I remembered what it was like growing up, where you had to drive to Bristol or Kingsport and work in fast food and only work 4 hours. It just didn't make sense to even work. And I wanted to change that and hire local college-bound youth. Today, Adventure Mendota has 6 high school and college students working and 1 adult working. And we pay a minimum of $10 per hour to these students and workers. So I feel like we've made progress on that, and we try to give them all 30 hours a week, weather permitting. Finally, and of course, I wanted to live and work in Mendota too. I had worked in human resources in manufacturing and coal. Things were not going well in those businesses. I wanted to be a part of something that was growing, something that was new, and be able to work alongside my husband. And so Adventure Mendota also afforded me that opportunity. So what will a Kiva loan do for me? My Kiva loan is for $9,000, and while Adventure Mendota started off with 12 kayaks back in 2015, we've added and added, and now we have over 50, but that's not enough. I have groups that are booked with, we got a call the other day and someone changed their booking from 50 kayaks to 70 kayaks. So I need plenty of kayaks. So I'll be buying kayaks with my Kiva loan of $9,000, and that means that more people can go down the river. So I want to thank you, those of you who are lending to me, are considering lending. When by doing so, you're helping my community, you're helping my employees. They said to tell you thank you. And you're helping me personally achieve my goal of working only in Adventure Mendota. But most importantly, you're helping Southwest Virginia build a new sustainable economy. Because somebody told me, I think Chris Cannon said that there's a t-shirt slogan, Southwest is best, and I agree with that. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Harrison, Appalachian Drafting. We're located in Abingdon, Virginia. Our Kiva loan that we applied for is for $10,000. With this loan, we'll be able to purchase another license of our 3D modeling software. Some of you may have already seen it up there. We got it on display. With the Washington County Career and Technical Center, they brought us a set of HoloLenses. This is how we create our shop models. We create 3D models, we create holograms with it. So if you haven't seen it, please stop by and check those out. But the Kiva loan, where we're able to, obviously, if we can purchase more licenses, we can hire more people. The jobs that we have created right now are high-paying jobs. These are full-time jobs, a job where someone could have to obtain, raise a family, buy a car, buy a home. These are full-time jobs. Also, one thing that Appalachian Drafting is happy to be able to do now is we are paying 100% of our employees' health care benefits. Also, we pay for their families. If they have a wife or they have children, Appalachian Drafting pays 100% of their family premiums as well. So these are full-time jobs. I was born and raised in Richlands, son of a coal miner. So to me, it's all about the families and what we can do. So if you do, we would appreciate it if you would look us up and loan to us. We'd be very grateful for it. But most importantly, we're very grateful to the good Lord above all things to be able to be here today and be part of this. Thank you all very much.
Hello, my name is Stephen Curd. I am the owner and operator of Lavelle Manufacturing, and we are located in Glade Spring. I am a proud owner in Glade Spring. I've been a part of this community for the past almost 4 years, and we're so excited. We just celebrated a year in business for our manufacturing. I have a background in menswear and custom clothing, and Lavelle Manufacturing is our umbrella for many things that we make in-house. So we do a lot of accessories, leather goods, but our biggest part of our business is custom clothing. Kiva comes in at a very important time right now for our business as we grow into our year 2. And what we plan to use the money for is to pay off some machinery that we had to purchase the first year, and to also hire 2 people, 2 seamstresses, to help with production and to also take on more business so that we can grow as a business. I am a strong believer in small businesses. I didn't start out in manufacturing, but that's where life has led me. And I would love to bring that back to Southwest Virginia, one customer at a time. So if you guys are interested in helping a small business do that, you can find us on Kiva, and I've got a booth up at the top too. So thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Beth Walker. I'm with Stone Mountain Adventures located in Norton, Virginia. We are an outdoor adventure company offering guided mountain biking, hiking, and kayak trips in the High Knob region. We're working closely with the City of Norton and our community leaders to help the tourism economy grow, not only for our city, but the entire region of Southwest Virginia. The Kiva loan will help us to purchase the equipment that we need to finish outfitting our company. We are new, we just started up this spring, so we would really appreciate any support, and thank you very much.
My name is Jennifer Bailey, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I can't stop myself. My husband and I own Sugar Hill Brewing Company, located in St. Paul, which I hope many of you will come to tonight. And we want to do a special project. We started the brewery 20 months ago. We're still there. We're still making it, even though when we started, we had no idea what we were doing. And I think we've done a pretty good job. So we have that going now, and we went into distribution with our beer. We're in somewhere between 20 and 30 different restaurants. So then we got a little bored. We had nothing else to do. We thought that we would start a catering business that just as a natural extension of the brewery. Well, I was in a build-up St. Paul class, and one of the presenters there said, if any of you want to do a food truck, light bulb, if any of you want to do a food truck, that's a great thing to do right now. So I went home and said, Greg, we're going to do a food truck. And he said, all right. That's how he always does. So when we started the brewery, we had a hard time coming up with money. It was tough because it was going to take a lot of money. We were totally unproven. Nobody knew if we would fall flat on our face or if we could handle it. Well, we felt radioactive a lot of times because nobody wanted anything to do with us. That's changed a little because we've made it, we've grown, we've survived, and that's a good thing. We're trying to not only survive, we're trying to thrive. And I feel like Kiva will give other people the ability to be able to start things. So with this Kiva loan, we're doing our permanent financing for our food truck. And we already found the food truck. And our IDA board gave us a 90-day loan, but this is the permanent funding for it. So we're going with that food truck, we will be going around to different businesses, large employers in the area, and have lunch a lot of times. We'll be doing special events. We'll be doing private parties. So whatever opportunity pops up, we'll be ready for it. So with that, you know, if any of you guys want to help Sugar Hill a little with the Kiva loan, we appreciate you. It feels so good when you get a notice. It's better than getting a Facebook happy birthday notice, you know. It's like they say, somebody has loaned to you on Kiva. It's like, whoa, they love me. So thank you all.
CEO of Adelaide National Bank, and we're pleased, along with many other fine institutions and businesses, to be a sponsor of the 3rd annual Southwest Virginia Economic Forum. You know, our bank has been around for 130 years, and during that time, we've seen 27 economic recessions and depressions. So in many ways, the challenges that we face today, while somewhat different, also reflect for any business that's just part of the way of life, and that adaptation is very important. And I was, like many of you, kind of disappointed that the governor was not able to be with us this morning. But more important than his physical attendance is the knowledge that we have someone who understands our region, understands rural Virginia, being from the Eastern Shore. And I'm reminded of a story about Henry Wise, who sit here in the town of Wise in Wise County. And Governor Wise says that was also from Accomack County. Now, there's a story about the governor and a pig, but I'll tell you that one later during the break. But during the time that the governor was governor, there was a distinct division in the Commonwealth between Eastern Virginia and the western part of the state. It had been going on for many, many years. And he knew that for the Commonwealth to be strong and to grow, he needed to bring the different parts of the Commonwealth together. So he made as a priority the establishment primarily of trains, but also roads, so that farmers and other folks in the western part of the state could gain access to riverways, which were the primary shipping for our goods and services. He saw a vision, he had a vision of us being together and working together. And today, as we're here and we think about the town of Wise, the city of Norton, or Wise County and Russell County working together, or we think about Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee working together, or as we think about Central Appalachia working together, or even Sherrill, Canada and the United States working together. What better thing to do to plan the future by knowing that all of us can be a part of that? I would ask that you turn to page 6 in your handout, because I don't want to take valuable time away from this amazing presentation that you're getting ready to hear. But Cheryl Cran is the Chief Executive Officer of Evolutionary Business Solutions. And you can see from the different awards and recognitions that she has received that she's a very, very talented lady. First time to this part of the state, to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, you know, for those of you who go to Barter Theater, you know, Rick always asks who comes the furthest. And I'm going to make this real simple. How many of you here have traveled more than 3,514 miles? Raise your hand. Here she is. The future of work is now. Are you ready? Cheryl Cran.
Well, hello everybody. How are you? What a great start so far. I do want to give a special shout out to Becky and her team, Rosa, and the whole, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to be here. I want to get into this right away and to share with you what I have to share, and actually congratulate you for the success that you're already creating in your economic development in this region. As was said in my introduction, I am a Canadian, so you might hear me say out and about, or a. You'll get used to it. And I've traveled through and worked throughout the US and globally for over 20 years, and you'll see that in my bio. So one of the things about the pleasures of what I do is I get to cross-pollinate amongst industries or states, countries, And what you really start to see when you're a consultant and do what I do is that regardless of where we're located, there's a lot of commonalities. We're all people, we all want to have a life, we all want to have places for our families to be safe and loved, and we all want to make our communities prosperous. That's what we all have in common. So I'd like to have a little bit of interaction in my sessions as well. And for those of you that are seated in the black chairs, as I promised, you will get a prize from me, and I'll share that in a bit. It's actually an ebook on generations called 101 Ways to Make Generations X, Y, and Zoomers Happy at Work. One of my best-selling books. So you'll get an ebook copy of that, and I'll give you instructions on how to get that once we're finished. So there is rewards and incentivizing, and by the way, millennials and Gen Zs work really well with incentives. Everybody else is a little suspicious and cynical, but that's okay. That's part of it too. So let's talk about the future of work. My background is finance and insurance. I come from being in the banking and insurance worlds prior to starting my own consulting firm in 1997. I was talking at lunch about the entrepreneurial mindset, which I'll share with you in my presentation. And this is the thing, is entrepreneurial mindset. You're either, in my experience, you're either born into a situation where you have an entrepreneurial family, or you've been exposed to entrepreneurism through perhaps a relative or through a friend or through a coworker. But generally, entrepreneurism isn't something that's been taught in school. It is for younger millennials and Gen Zs now, but for many baby boomers in the room, baby boomers are Zoomers. A Zoomer is a baby boomer who refuses to age. So you can call yourself a Zoomer from now on. And there is a website called zoomermag.com that talks about the whole shift in baby boomers going, they're not actually retiring as planned, they're refiring, which means they might leave a long-term job, but they're going to go and do something else and maybe even start their own firm. So there's a lot of things happening in the future of work. What I'd like to do, though, is to test your agility. Are you really flexible for the future? Many of you are. I've spent the entire morning here and watching the presentations and seeing the amazing progress that you're making in your economic development and how much each of you cares for your communities and for this region. But this is a little bit of a fun test to sort of, my goal is always to take what you're already doing successfully and just elevate it a little bit. That's always my goal. So do me a favor, make a fist with your right hand. And now turn to the person beside you as if you were going to give them a fist bump. And if you have more than 3 or 4 people, do it across the whole row. There we go, you gentlemen have it, you got it. So stay like that, please. You've got to keep touching, I apologize. We'll get you some Purell later on. So keep your fists up and keep touching. That's what I'm looking for. Demonstration here, perfect. As soon as you hear the music, somebody push. Okay. Hands down. We have a room full of highly intelligent people, and what did most of us do? Pushed. Why? Anybody want to say why? Other than some Zoomers will say, well, you told us to. I actually used the word someone, which meant we had a choice in that interaction, right? But the reason we push is a very, very solid law of how we live our lives. It's just like the law of gravity, which is for every action, there's an equal and opposite. See how smart you are? Here's the challenge, though. As we make our way to the future of work, we have 3 ways of responding to change. We either push back against it, which is resistance. You know, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, this isn't happening, oh my gosh, my industry isn't suffering, we're not going to struggle. That's a pushback reaction. And by the way, that's a normal human process in change. In my work, I work with leaders and CEOs and teams to help them get through change at a faster rate. So you still push back, but you don't hang out there, you don't spend a lot of time there. Second response that happens, and this time I'll test it for you, put your hands up. Again, exactly as you did, fist to fist with the people you're sitting beside. And this time when you hear the music, someone push, someone give slightly. Yeah! So you two did it long distance, right? Okay. Remote fist bump, I love it. Yeah. So what happens that second time around is 3 different things. First thing that happened is neither person pushed. Now, if you're a baby boomer, that's frustrating as heck, because you're like, are you going to do something? No, are you going to do something? And Zoomers were wired through leadership through the 80s and Tom Peters and the 90s that somebody had to do something in order for something to get done. And that doesn't mean that that's not true now, but there's different ways of getting things done other than just driving things forward, right? Second thing that happened is that you were the one giving. You actually held a lot of power because you're showing your agility and flexibility for the future of work. So whoever gave in that exercise actually was showing that they're willing to create some movement, which is a future of work skill. And the third thing that happened in that exercise, if you were the one pushing, you're highly aggressive, you need professional help. You can email me, text me, I'm happy to help. I say that with joking, but what I'm saying really is how many of you who did push noticed that because the other person gave, you were able to ease up on your pushing. And this is the psychological beauty of talking about change leadership in the future of work, is that he or she who has the flexibility, the skill set, the upskill, the reskill, the flexibility of mind to know what's applicable in a situation is going to master this game we call the future. Right? So whoever's the most agile is going to have the most success and the least amount of stress. Because how many of you in this room have pushed, at the end of the day you go home and you're exhausted? One thing the millennials and Gen Zs have figured out is work doesn't have to be hard. It's a very important lesson they're teaching us. Work does not have to be hard. And then it's always a traditionalist or a Zoomer goes, well, whatever happened to good old-fashioned hard work? Well, it didn't go anywhere. It's just that there's new ways of doing it that's work smarter, not harder. The work can get done. And so I'll share more about the millennials. And by the way, I'm not glamorizing the millennials. I'm not saying they have it all figured out. When I talk about the generations in my presentations, every generation brings value and wisdom that we together have to bring together to synergy and to work together at higher levels than ever before. I will refer to the millennials and the Gen Zs frequently because they're a lot of the reason why we're seeing massive change. Technology is the #1 reason why we're seeing massive change. But it's the changing attitudes of millennials and Gen Zs pushing work in a different direction. So, a couple of ways you can interact with me beyond the presentation. Every one of my slides will be put up after, towards the end of the day today, so you can get these slides. Just go to the URL nextmapping.com/SWVA. You have to use the password future to access it. And then please, if you like what you're hearing, even if you don't like what you're hearing, please tweet about it, either at NextMapping or at Cheryl Cran, and tag both of those when you do tweet. If you are a tweeter and you love to tweet, use hashtags like future of work, hashtag future ready teams, hashtag future economy. And those will help us stay in the trending of what we're talking about here in your region. So I want to share with you a video of some statistics, and some of these statistics are meant to shock, and some of them are meant to create a sort of a reality check with yourself and go, did I already know that, and what are we doing to really adapt to these realities? So take a watch of the video. jump out usually is the toothbrush one. That's usually like a gross one. And then the other one is 40% of Fortune 100s or 500s won't be here in the next 10 years. What that's meant to do is that is a true research statistic, and on the other side of that, recent research says that there will be new Fortune 100s replaced by entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial movement in technology, innovation, and all of the things that we're seeing happening. So we can look at that video and go, oh boy, you know, it's a little bit scary, or we look at it as, from an entrepreneurial mindset, as this is exciting, because there's all sorts of opportunity as a result of these changes. So that's the way I look at it. I get very excited about the future, hence why I research and talk about the future. I sent a survey out via Becky to all attendees asking you questions. And I asked, what do you think are the main industries of the future? What are the trends you're seeing for the future? What are the challenges and what excites you? And I got about a 10% response rate, which is pretty typical. You know, so we got about 30, 40 responses from the group. But it's usually a great sort of, you know, a snapshot of the general thinking. And so the main industries that people saw for the future: technology, cybersecurity, ag, tourism, and sustainable energy. So that pretty much corroborates with my research that that's true. I'm not sure if you're aware in the room that MIT recently announced that they are going to be having the first AI degree program. So now we're going to see in education AI certification happening for artificial intelligence. So those are right on. The other thing that we look at with main industries, and I am a graduate of the Singularity University Exponential Innovation Program, which I attended last fall in Silicon Valley, and they talked a lot about anything that creates entertainment for millennials and Gen Zs is a massive, booming economic opportunity. So quick story, I'm a mom and I'm a grandmother, so my daughter's 30 and my grandbaby Olive is 3. And my daughter and her husband are considering moving out of the city. We live in the city, they live about 10 minutes from us, to a small rural community. And the reason for that is they want to have quality of life, they want to have family, they want to be able to have more children with more space and do all of those things. And she currently works in a law firm. And so she was investigating her work options in this rural community that she was researching, and found that yes, there were law firms, but there was only 2, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity. It was pretty, you know, the workers were pretty stable there. But she has an entrepreneurial mother and father, were both entrepreneurs, and so she said, well, I wonder what I could do for a business if we were to move there. And so she researched, and what she found was a lot of the rural communities have very much appeal for young people, but there's not a lot of activities to do, or maybe not even a lot of things for families to do. So in the city, there was this place that was called Circus, where it's mothers and fathers can take their children, and it's not daycare, it's play care. So you go and you're there with your child, but you can have snacks with your children, they can play, it's supervised, it's safe. And she said, I've done my research, my market research, there's nothing like that in the vicinity of about, you know, a perimeter of 50 miles from this rural place. So she actually did her research and said, I would likely go and start something like that if I were to move there. So this is what we're looking at as a trend, is adding services for entertainment and quality of life is going to be something that's going to continue as a trend. You said to me, you said technology-focused businesses, absolutely, without a doubt. I've been listening to all the presentations today, and one of them was, I think it was up in the corner there, talking about bringing some of the opportunities from Booz Allen here to the south. And so I thought that was very fascinating. I was listening, I was like, that's a great idea. And also an additional idea is, how can we make even more of the jobs remote? Because millennials and Gen Zs want to work from where they live. So one way of thinking is, let's bring the jobs here, and that's great. Another elevated way of thinking is, how do we create more remote job opportunities for people to do, regardless of their generation, right? So we just, you know, my thing is always, I get so excited when I come to events like this, because the ideas you're already generating are phenomenal, and then it just gets my creative mind going as well. And I'll share a few other thoughts that I had after listening to this morning's sessions as well. Any niche product or service, again, in city environments, anything that saves people time. So, you know, in the city, I'll use an example because I just spoke in Las Vegas for the International Beauty and Salon Network. And so one of the biggest businesses that they have there is blow-dry only services. And you might think, well, that's silly, who's going to spend money for them? Well, guess what? A lot of busy women spend money to get a blow-dry only and not have to do it through a traditional salon. So that's just a few examples. Freelance economy, research has shown, one of my other clients, Upwork, who are in the Silicon Valley, They've shown that freelance economy, people that will do jobs by project, specifically millennials, Gen Zs, and Gen Xs, is increased by 64% in the last 2 years, and by the year 2020 projected to be 70% of people who choose a job will choose freelance over a full-time static position. So how does that affect how we set up our work and how we offer opportunities? It changes the whole conversation around talent attraction and retention. Because old-style talent was you recruited somebody for a job, they worked 9 to 5, they got vacation. Even the conversation at lunch around people aren't taking vacation time. That is true, and there's another trend happening, which is the staycation, which is people are taking extended long weekends rather than weeks off at a time. So how do we capitalize on these trends that people are doing? There's actually people taking virtual holidays using virtual reality. And that's another trend that we're going to be seeing. So there's so many things that are happening so quickly. You said some of your challenges are the generational attitudes, and I run into this all the time. When I wrote my book on generations in 2010, biggest opportunity then, and that was 8 years ago, was really about how do we understand the millennials. 8 years later, it's not about understanding them. They're in the workforce. We're working with them. It's how do we leverage their abilities and help us synergize in order to speed our innovation and get things moving as we move forward. Attracting and keeping talent, a shift in mindset. We should not be thinking of, I want to attract somebody and keep them. The average time on job for a millennial and a Gen Z, if they like the brand of the company, if they like the culture, if they like the leaders, is 3 years maximum. Why? Because they have choice. Right now, millennials and Gen Zs are thriving in what we would call an employee market. It's not an employer market, and this is global, not just North American. And what that means is similar to the house analogy. If you're a seller of a house or a buyer right now, it means it's a buyer's market. The employee has the choice. The employee is saying, yeah, I'll come work for you, but if you're not nice to me, I'm out. And I'm not saying that with any flippancy, I'm saying this is the reality. So what has to happen for leaders is we can't just be leading top down. We just can't autocratically be saying, do this or you're fired. We have to inspire. We have to motivate. We have to incentivize. And for a lot of long-term leaders, it's like, ugh, really? Why can't you just do the job I'm asking you to do? Because that's the way it used to be. That's not where it's going. So the skill sets of being a leader in the past was be a good boss that tells people what to do. The skill sets of the future, inspire, motivate, engage, incentivize. How many of you in the room have children? You know children are Gen Zs. Any of your children that are under 20 are Gen Zs. How many of you find that they cannot, and this is a common comment, they cannot take criticism? Why? Because they are going to a school where they are taught to have constructive feedback. Positive reinforcement. Again, for some of you, it's like, oh, whatever happened to just being able to say? It's because we, baby boomers, yes, we had parents who said, you suck. Right? But if you said that to your kid today, I'm not, please, if you're a Gen Z or a millennial, don't take offense. I'm simply saying that what's happened is an evolution of psychology around what is feedback? What is reward? What is incentive? What does make me feel like a valued human being? There was a time in the past where just showing up for a job was good enough. But today it's not. So no, not only do I want you to hire me, but I want you to love me, love me, love me. I want you to tell me how awesome I am. I want you to reward me quickly. I want you to give me a raise in 3 months. Heck, I want you to promote me in 6. So again, the long-timers go, do you know how long it took me to get to where I am? When I grew up, I walked 20 miles to the school bus in the snow up to here. Right? You talk like that and the millennials go, whatever. They have no connection to that reality. It's not their reality. Now, millennials work hard. They just do it differently. And I say we stop calling them entitled, and we stop calling them disloyal, and we stop calling them lazy because you're pushing them away when you do that. And instead what we say is, let me learn from you. Show me how to leverage the technology. Show me how you think about this business. Show me what we're doing that we could be doing better. And that's a strategy for the future of work, reverse mentoring. Very progressive organizations are having millennial Gen Z focus groups to tell them, what would you do if you ran our company? They're having reverse mentoring in the organization where the millennials tell the senior leaders what they think should be done for the technology, for the client. Now these are radical ideas, but you have to be willing to get over the ego of how things have been. And we all have that. There are things of the past that we do want to hang on to. And it's not about letting go of the past, it's taking the very best of the past and leveraging it for the future we are creating. And this is tough for most of us to do because we assign the past with nostalgia. We assign the past with almost like the grass was greener. And that's a normal psychological phenomenon as well. But if we glamorize the past, we're prohibiting opportunities for the future. So it's an honoring of the past while looking towards the future. And then I said, well, what excites you guys? And wow, these just leapt off the page, and these were almost every kind. I love that we're innovating the region. You're so passionate about this. I love that we're bridging education and business. We are collaboratively coming together. You said, I love that we're shifting the mindset in the region. We are transforming. You said, we love that we're leveraging technology, that we're dreaming big, that the people of Southwest Virginia rock, and that we create the future. Put your hands on the shoulder you're seated beside right now, please. Put your hands on the shoulder of the person you're seated beside right now. If you want to turn around and put your hand on Becky's shoulder, look that person right in the eye and say, you rock. You are awesome. Because you are. And so what's really cool about this is that means if the future's calling, sorry, my microphone's getting a bit brief here. If the future's calling, then we must be answering. Hello. Now, we already are in this room, but I'm talking answering in the most flexible way we ever possibly could. I'm talking about answering with the most energy and excitement and desire to collaborate and synergize than we've ever had before. I'm talking about that inspiration that sets everyone on fire, that they can't possibly say no to you for anything that you want to innovate because they see the passion and the energy that you have. What we are creating in the future requires more energy than what we've created in the past. And that means each of us individually have to step to the plate. If we look at the innovations that are changing the world, and these technologies were created by millennials working in their jobs, these were created by Gen X's and Zoomers working together. But if you look at the upper left here, my left, your left, that is an exoskeleton created in Asia, which goes over the body of either a man or a woman and allows the person to work in a manufacturing job and lift to the power of 10 men. Now, if you're a millennial, again, millennials, don't take offense. I see a whole row of you here, so just bear with me, okay? If you're a millennial, most millennials don't want to go and dig ditches or lift heavy things. No disrespect, but they never had to. Their parents said, just focus on your school. If you like technology, that's cool. But we haven't made them go out, unless you're in a farm. I grew up on a farm. Unless you're a farm where you have to do manual labor as part of the reality of your lifestyle. But generally, they haven't. So guess what? Guess what happens when you have an exoskeleton as part of your job description? How many millennials do you think are signed up to take on that job? A lot. Why? Because they get to be like Superman, Spider-Man, give me an exoskeleton and da-da-da-da! Making it fun, making it something more than a job, making it more powerful. How do you think you'd show up at home at the end of the day if you could lift it to the power of 10 men? You'd be going home saying, hi, I'm home. Because it's increased the potential and capacity of people to perform. This on the upper right corner is a care bot. Again, Asian technology. Care bots, what do you think is the biggest cause of injury in the hospital industry or in the healthcare industry? Lifting heavy patients. Doctors and nurses are injured on a regular basis because they're trying to move and navigate heavy patients. So technology comes up with a care bot. Care bot comes in like almost like a bulldozer. Scoops you up under the legs. And guess what happens? The doctors and nurses, what do you think happens to their empathy ability? It goes up because they're not taxed with the physicality of the job. And psychologically, what do you think happens to the patient? They've asked every single patient, how do you feel being lifted by the care bot? And they all form psychological attachment to the care bot. Why? Because they're being supported. This is phenomenal. Anything we look, if you right now you're sitting in your chair and you're like, I'm so excited. It's like anything that's about people first and changing the world is going to rock the future. These are just a few examples. The bottom is a US client. I can't name who they are because it's very top secret, but I worked with them a few months ago. They've developed this technology, allowed me to share the technology without naming them as an organization. But they developed this technology where they take your biomarkers out, and when you're sick or if you break a bone, they reinsert your biomarkers and you heal 6 times faster than the normal time frame. That means if you break a bone, rather than 6 weeks of healing, in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, you're healing. Transforming, how do you think that transforms the defense industry, policing industry, any industry where it's a high-risk injury factor? Fascinating technology. This here at the bottom is a manufacturing cobot. Manufacturers are really leading in as far as automation, robotics, really integrating that. This is a cobot that rather than taking jobs, it's actually increased jobs. And this is another myth about automation and technologies, that it's taking jobs. It's actually shifting the economy for new jobs and opportunities. It is not taking jobs. It's forcing us to upskill and reskill where the industries are going. It's not taking. And a lot of times, that's another thing about the past, is you're taking something away from me. No. Things are evolving, and either I follow the winds of evolution or I continue to fight reality and what's happening. So this is fascinating stuff. Earlier we were talking about disruptions and how things are changing. We can talk about coal, we can talk about oil and gas in my country, or we can talk about and a lot of these things are shifting and morphing and transitioning into other things. But we can either look at those disruptions as, I'm going to hold on to that reality, or we look for the winds of change, the solar energy, wind energy, things that are showing up as where we're going. Somebody talked about Wi-Fi and internet in rural communities. And I listened in on somebody said, well, we're working with increasing broadband or cable or fiber optics, which is all great, but I'll tell you that's not the answer, because that can only serve a certain amount of people. But if you go into a Alteros blimp, and by the way, I know some of you are in the aerospace industry. If you don't already know this, I'm sure you must, but if you don't, this is a huge opportunity for your corridor. Because one of those blimps can serve up to 10,000 to 100,000 homes with internet. Google is also working on balloon-powered internet provider, and SpaceX, which is helmed by Peter Diamandis and Elon Musk, is going into space with satellite Wi-Fi, and Peter Diamandis predicts by the year 2025, the entire globe, 7 billion people will be connected by Wi-Fi. Right now, 50% of the planet is connected by Wi-Fi. If you think we're having change now, you wait until the entire planet is hooked up to Google. It'll change everything, but we can be on the leading edge of the opportunity. Like my entrepreneurial mind goes, wow, 7 billion people. That means everybody in this room could be a millionaire if you simply harnessed one idea and hit 100,000 people. Or 1 million people with a $1 product. There's so much potential. But a lot of times we get scared. It's, well, I don't know, it's too overwhelming. Go to your resources. I sat here today, you have so many resources. I sat here and I went, wow, if I lived here, ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. You've got resources in your economic form, you've got resources in your bankers, you've got resources in your other communities, you've got resources in your education, you've got resources in your training, you've got resources in established businesses, you've got resources in the 12,000 coal miners that have other skills than what was ever known. You've got resources coming out your ears. It's simply harnessing the resources and believing that we have the power collectively to lead things in the next direction. Take a look at this video. This is the perils of not changing. Take a look.
CD sales are down. We're getting killed by this internet fad.
How about a music club? 10 CDs for a dollar.
That's a big idea, Todd.
We should invest in laser discs.
What if we didn't have to sell CDs? If the market trend is to shift online, we should create an online platform and charge monthly subscription fees.
CD sales are down, people. We're getting killed by this internet fad.
What about a music club? 10 CDs for a dollar.
That's a big idea, Todd.
We should invest in laser discs.
CD sales are down. We're getting killed by this internet fad.
Are you on the right side of change?
So how many of you, whoops, is that my way of how many, how many of you are familiar with the fact that Kodak had the technology to do digital before Instagram? Common example used. I might need to use a handheld, Rosa, because something's going on with the mic. Instagram. How about Blockbuster? How many of you knew Blockbuster had the ability to do what Netflix did and didn't listen to the winds of change? So are we on the right side of change? There we go. Are we on the right side of change? So the disruptions, we can either look at them as a disruption that is negative, or we can look at it as a disruption that is causing us to innovate. And I'm going to test your innovation abilities in a few minutes. So if we look at technology and shifting industries and attitudes about work, they're all opportunities to innovate. And as I said, we're going to test you in a second. Here's the plan. Here's one of the action items, is we learn from the past while thinking of the future. You're already doing that in this room. I work a lot with Gartner, a technology firm, and what they call that is bimodal, which means you work and focus on the core business and what you've got going on now, but you have a keen focus on innovation. So I know a little bit about the community, but not as much as I could know, because I don't live here and I have no, this is my first time to Wise. It's gorgeous. I went for a walk outside and it was absolutely beautiful. But are we looking at the opportunities to innovate with what we've got around us? So thinking of the future, looking at how do we innovate from where we are. So right now your core business could be could be coal and you're looking at solar. Or it could be education and you're looking at learnerships, which I'll talk about in a moment. So what are the things that we can do as we're looking at the future? Well, one of the things we can do is really shift to an entrepreneurial mindset. Now here's the thing, in the industrial age, 80s, 90s, even before that, we were rewarded for IQ. He or she who had the highest thinking or the highest degree was the most powerful. Well, Peter Diamandis, who is the author of Abundant Future, which I highly recommend in addition to what I'm presenting to you, he says that in the future, degrees are only as relevant as you continue to learn beyond the acquisition of the degree. And he says, actually, you can graduate from a college or university today, and unless you're continually learning, it's irrelevant within 2 years. Now, that's not to scare us, it's to say that we're no longer in this place of you go do something and then you're set for life. We're actually in this place where we've got to continually innovate, continually learn, continually grow, continually improve, continually look to how do we evolve for the future. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I was raised on a farm in the middle of Canada. My father was an entrepreneur. He was not only a farmer, but he was an insurance salesman. And I was raised by him saying, you can be and do anything. And I watched him work his fingers to the bone, up at 4, not home till 10, driving food out to the field for him so that he could eat. And I grew up that way. But what it really integrated into me was I could choose what I wanted to do. However, I graduated school in 1981, and anybody remember what the interest rates were like in 1981? Are you old enough to remember? Yeah? 18, 20%. People were losing their homes, and this was a North American phenomenon. This was everywhere. I'm showing my age now. And so at that time, fear set in. So rather than think of entrepreneurial opportunity, that environment was go get a job so that you could have security. And so that's what we did. So I went right into banking. And when I went into banking, my dad said, you know, work hard, do whatever you need to do, whatever the boss says, you do it. And I'm like, okay, that's the way I'm going to succeed. I will do that. So I started out as a teller and I got promoted to customer service, and I was very ambitious and very achievement oriented. And this was in the days of banking, was predominantly male, very few females, really ambitious. And one day without any warning, 2 guys with masks and sawed-off shotguns came through the side door and they robbed us. Everybody got to the floor except for me. I stood there in complete shock until the gunman came to me, put his gun to my head, and he said, I said, get to the floor. And I looked at him and said, well, why didn't you say so in the first place? A little sarcastic under pressure. And so I get to the floor and I have 2 thoughts. Number 1, man, am I stupid? And number 2, we really need to clean these carpets. true thought process. But when it was over, I called 911 and the police came and I was able to give a description, and my boss, Doreen, was very traumatized, and so were the customers. But I handled myself well under pressure. We got robbed again 2 weeks later, same two guys. They were robbing to support their drug habit. I behaved exactly the same way. And my boss says to me, you really handle yourself well under pressure. We'd like to promote you. And they promoted me to the second highest robbery branch in the city. The one I was in was the first, it was the highest, and then they promoted me to the second highest. I got promoted to assistant manager. I was 23 years of age, and we got robbed 10 times in the year that I was there. And it had a back door and a front door, so it was a robber's paradise. And I remember going to my boss saying, you know, gosh, these robberies are kind of, like, I don't like them. And she's like, yeah, no, we don't like them either. And I said, well, what if we took control of the situation? What if we do some reverse psychology? She said, what do you mean? I said, well, what if we tell them how to rob us? She's like, well, we've tried everything else. Sure, if you can convince the team to take your way, then let's do it. So I had a meeting with the team, 10 people, all of them older than I was, and I said, hey, I got an idea. What if the next time we get robbed, I tell everybody to get to the floor, I tell the robbers how to rob us, and bada boom, bada bing, we're all safe, robbery's over, we're in control, we can have a laugh afterwards. And they all looked at me like I was completely crazy. But they're like, okay, we've tried everything else. I mean, they were weary by this point. So sure enough, and by the way, for the cynics in the room, it was not an inside job. I had nothing to do with the robberies. Yeah. So sure enough, you do develop a spidey sense, and so I sort of heard this rustle, I look to the back door, sure enough, there's a guy putting his mask on. I say to my team, everybody to the floor. My team gets to the floor. We're all on the floor, and I yell up from the floor, welcome, fellas, you're right on schedule. Help yourself to the money and let us know when you're leaving. So they helped us up the money, and when they left, they said, we're out of here, and they left. Perfect. We got up, pressed the alarms, closed the doors. We were all safe. We had a laugh. We did that 10 times the year I was there. And I'd like to tell you that under that intense trauma, disruption, you can't have more disruption than anything like that happening to you. My team not only performed well under pressure, but we were still number 3 in the district for customer satisfaction. So to me, now for the millennials in the room, like, why didn't you just quit? Because that sounds like crazy. It's like, because the boomers in the room know that when you were told to do something, you do it. Just like that phrase, you made your bed, you lie in it. We all know these phrases, right? My point is that today, I wouldn't want anyone to go through any of that kind of trauma, but what it did was it built disruption tolerance for me, and it also built, and that's a skill of the future of work, by the way, is disruption tolerance, and it also built my entrepreneurism, which is I can come up with creative ideas, even while I was within a structure of a financial organization. So that an entrepreneurial mindset, you already have kernels of it, or you have large degrees of it. But it's something that's not born, we're not necessarily, everybody has it inherently. Changing attitudes on leadership, teamwork, loyalty, and how work is done. Millennials don't want to necessarily be the only one in charge. They like shared leadership, they like team leadership, they like to work and rotate on projects. There's a big shift. The entrepreneurial mindset requires multiple perspectives. If you look at that image, there's 2 different angles to which to see it from. So one of the biggest skills of an entrepreneur is they can see all the moving pieces. They can see from the client perspective, they can see it from their perspective as an entrepreneur, they can see it from the market perspective, from a competitor perspective. They've got all these multiple perspectives going on. So what can we do? Well, the first thing that all of us are continuing to work on is shifting our mindset. And there's a model that I created, which I can't share today just because of time, but if you go onto YouTube, I have hundreds of videos on a lot of the things that I talk about. If you go to my website, I've got articles, I've got white papers, I've got all sorts of material that goes beyond the presentation. But shifting the mindsets means we need to think more of opportunity and innovation. I'm going to test you on this. We need to look at some of these ideas I shared, reverse mentoring, focus groups, resources, and leveraging creative intelligence.